Welcome to the Yoga Energy with Katie podcast. I'm your host, Katie O'Byrne. I'm a yoga and Reiki teacher and I am obsessed with learning. I can't wait to share with you some of the things that we learn here on this podcast. So stay tuned for some weird and wonderful conversations. Hello everyone, welcome back to this week's episode 7. First of all, apologies that there was no podcast last week. It's been more difficult than I anticipated, not only to find the time to record podcasts, but also to schedule podcasts with guests because of busy schedules, but also because of time zone differences. So we've had to rearrange a couple of podcasts actually in the last few weeks. So that's why there wasn't one last week, but you know, life goes on. I'm sure nothing major will change in the world because there wasn't one last week. But I am sure that you are going to really, really enjoy this week's episode. Before I tell you about this week's episode, I just want to remind you that I am doing online classes Monday evenings at 7 p.m. Irish time. If you don't know, I am traveling a little bit at the moment. Currently, I am sitting in an apartment in a place called Mamutlar in Turkey. And I've been in Turkey now 2 weeks. What day is today? Yeah, just over 2 weeks. And it's an incredible place. I've had such a good time so far. Very close to Greece, which is where I'll be heading to next. In a couple of days, I'll be heading to Greece. But before I go to Greece, I'm planning on going to Ephesus, which is, I think, one of the oldest cities in the world. And the reason why it caught my attention is because it is said to be the last place that Mother Mary lived. Mary Magdalene is said to have travelled there. I don't know. I'm reading conflicting stories. So I was trying to find more information. I was asking people if they knew anything about the stories of Mother Mary being there. But yeah, it seems quite conflicting. There's a couple of places she's said to be buried. But I think I will just let go of all that, see if I can get there and see what I find out while I'm there. So like I mentioned, the online classes are going to continue for the next couple of weeks on a Monday evening. And then come September, I've got some really great workshops planned for September, which I'll tell you more about in the coming weeks. So this week I speak to Ruchi Tiwari, who is a very special person in my life. I'm so glad to have met her. We first met last August when I did my 300-hour teacher training at Rishikesh Yog Peeth. She is one of the directors of Yog Peeth, which is a yoga school that's been running in Rishikesh for 18 years. She has a very interesting story about how she ended up to be there. To me, it seems like it was all about divine timing. And it's just one of those things that she was meant to be there for a reason, for a very good reason. And I'm very grateful that she was, because it means that I got to meet her. And it also means that I got to have this time with her to record the podcast and to get a little bit more insight into her and to the yoga school that I really, really treasure. It's been a place that has helped to transform my life, and I just hold a really special place for it in my heart. I was a little bit nervous during this podcast because of some of the topics I knew that were going to come up, but I'm happy that I had this conversation with Ruchi. But I was nervous about it because we do speak about, I suppose, the reputation that ashrams can have. The reason I wanted to speak about this with Ruchi is because in 2020, Uma Dinsmore Tully released or re-released her book Yoni Shakti, And she listed like tons of yoga schools and tons of yoga teachers that have been accused of abuse in some form. And she blatantly said in the book that these places are not safe for women. And obviously, what she was saying is true because she has statements from many, many victims. Luckily, it's not something I've experienced in my time with Yoga Peeth, and I mention that because it's the only ashram that I've been to. And I really just wanted to take this opportunity that I had to speak to someone who is involved with quite a large organization. They've had more than 18,000 students pass through their doors over the years. So it is quite a large organization with a big amount of staff. They have lots of teachers, lots of catering staff, housekeeping staff, admin. It is a big organization. And when you're dealing with people in any form, things can go wrong. So I was very grateful that Ruchi was open to speaking about this, and she realized the importance of speaking about it, because obviously they have thousands of people traveling through their doors every year, but especially we all know that the main people that go to these places are females who tend to travel on their own. So we do touch on the topics of sexual abuse, but we also talk about emotional safety in these settings. And I'll get into the podcast now because it's quite a long episode. I could have spoke to, I say this all the time, but I genuinely could have spoke to Ruchi for so much longer. So yes, please enjoy this episode with Ruchi Tiwari. So, hi, Ruchi. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very excited too.
Good, good. So, I suppose just to give people a background about how we met, I traveled to Rishikesh last August to do a 300-hour teacher training at Rishikesh Yog Peeth. And I spent 6 weeks there. But before that, the reason I went there was because in 2016 I was also with Rishikesh Yog Peeth, but at that time you were in a different location. So I did my 200-hour. I'm pretty sure the location was Ramjula in Rishikesh, so it was more central, but it was actually still a nice area because it was a little bit quieter. It wasn't right in the heart of everything, and that's when I did my first yoga teacher training. And while I was there, one of our teachers was Roshan, and I remember he was telling us all about how um all of the plans to build this new ashram in the mountains, and he was giving us updates every day because he was back and forth to the new ashram, which is in Patna, so just a different location just outside the town. And it was really exciting because you could tell he was so excited about all the updates and all the different progress that are happening every day. And I knew as soon as he was telling us this, I was like, I will be back there someday, 100%. I knew like I would be back there someday. And actually, I was meant to go back, I think, a couple of years later, and then different things happened and that cancelled, that those plans didn't go through. And then the timing was right last year. So I ended up booking the 300-hour course for last August and September. And when I arrived, it was way more than what I thought it was going to be. Like the pictures don't do the location any justice. The views, the nature, everything about it is just spectacular. It's such a special place.
Yes, it
And
is.
yeah, and when I arrived and we had our initial kind of group meeting or opening ceremony, I just remember them because actually it was a completely different team to what I had in the first location. I didn't know any of the teachers in the new location. So I was thinking, is it going to be the same? Is it going to be the same values, the same kind of content and the courses and things? And then I remember you then from our first group meeting, and you immediately settled all of my kind of anticipation or any nervousness that I had about what to expect in the course. And I was just very grateful, and I knew, yeah, everything was going to be okay once you started to talk, because you definitely reassured me that the same kind of values were there. Um, but also you had this presence, and this confidence about you that we were all going to be okay. That you would look after us in some way, not in uh, not that you would pander us or mother us too much or anything, but I just had that feeling that you would make sure that everything was good for us. So yeah, that was kind of my introduction to Rishikesh, and my first time meeting you. So do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about who you are and how you came to be at Yog Peeth?
Sure. So, my introduction to yoga or my introduction to Yopeet is like a story. It's really like a story because this does not happen in a very quintessential way where someone is really into yoga and then they go to a yoga school and things like that. I was not. So, just give you a little bit of background of where I'm coming from. So, all my life I have worked in corporate, like a cutthroat corporate world. Excuse me. And around 2019, 2020, I felt that I need something different in my life, but I wasn't sure what it is. Like, if someone would have asked me then that, "Are you happy doing what you are doing?" I would say no. But if you would have asked me, "So what else do you want?" Probably I didn't have any answer that what I'm looking for. But I had this very strong feeling from inside that something needs to change in the way life is going. Anyways, I decided to take a break from my corporate life, like a 1 year break. I thought probably I'll take a sabbatical. I'll just travel the world, do something, kind of a break, and then I'll come back and join the corporate world again. So, in that endeavor, I have taken 1 year break in 2020, from January 2020, and decided to take 1 year full 1 year break. And my plan was actually earlier, when I decided the break, there was no plan, but in my office I heard someone talking about yoga teacher training. And even that time I didn't know that Rishikesh is a yoga capital of the world, coming from India. And this I'm talking when I was in Australia, because
Mm.
I've been living here for last 18 years and working throughout in Australian corporates. So I had no idea about this, but this word just stick to me, this yoga. I've been doing yoga just like any other corporate going person do that, on Wednesday, lunchtime, we have this extracurricular activity. One of them is yoga. Okay, let's go do 1 hour yoga, come back. It was more like an exercise. Later on, I realized that even that I was doing wrong. All the asanas I was doing wrong. But this thought, someone was talking about yoga teacher training, and I asked them what it is. What is yoga teacher training? So they say, "Oh, this is a proper structured course." And this friend of mine, she was looking for a course in Australia. I said, "Okay." And then the same day, I just did a random Google search on yoga teacher training, and Rishikesh Yog Peeth link come the first. And then I checked. I said, "Yeah, this looks nice. The location looks nice." And honestly, I was not interested in yoga or anything. I was just running away from my life,
Mm.
and I had no idea what is 200-hour, 300-hour, 500-hour course. I just looked at the duration, and the longest duration was 500 hour. I just clicked
Mm.
on it and booked without even knowing what it is.
Wow.
So I booked the course, and the plan was that I'll spend 7-8 weeks in India learning yoga, and then I'll come back to Australia. And after that, my tickets were booked to do 10 months world travel with my 10-year-old son. He was 10-year old that time. So
Mm.
that's my plan, to do a world tour with my son. Okay, so as time passes, my time arrived, and I went to Rishikesh for my yoga training, for my yoga teacher training. And that's when everything just turned in my life.
Mm.
I may say it turned upside down, because in a lack of better phrase, I don't know what else to use, but upside down in a very good way.
Yeah.
So when I went to Rishikesh Yog Peeth, when I got introduced with, till the day one when we were sitting in the orientation, I honestly had no idea what yoga teacher training is. I just knew that okay, I'll be living in this nice place for next 8 weeks. I was happy with that.
Yeah.
And then slowly when I was introduced with the aspect of real yogic life, because before that it was just what we do on the mat, the asana part was it, and a little bit interest was to lose weight also, get fit. But when I get to know what yoga is actually, it has brought like a something very significant change in me. Change as in, it really helped me to stop where I am rather than running, take a step back and think, rather than just closing your eyes and running fast and not giving ourselves enough time to think what we are doing with our life.
Mm.
So yoga teacher training was going on, and in the same process, in a very interesting meeting, I met with Digambarji, the founder of the place. Roshanji and Digambarji are the two founder of Rishikesh Yog Peeth. Roshanji has taken a break for the last 5 6 years. He is not involved, so Digambarji is managing everything right now. So I met him, and my actual transformation happened when I met him and when I started talking to him. So in the classroom it was a very structural technical training of becoming a yoga teacher was happening, whereas with Digambarji, the session with Digambarji helped me actually realize a lot of other things in life, a lot of untouched aspect of my life.
Mm.
And as it happened, when we finished our 200 hour, by that time, the COVID started. Like, even when I traveled to India, the COVID news were there. Like, people were started wearing masks, but we didn't know that time that it's going to be so serious. By the end of 200 hours, the international borders started closing down. But somehow it happened that I could not come back, so I had to stay back. So my training that was supposed to be 7.5 week, um, training finished, but we could not, some of us could not come back, and we stayed in the ashram for 4.5 months during that lockdown period.
Wow.
And in that lockdown, obviously, as everyone knows what kind of situation the entire world was in.
Mm.
But I would say that I was happily locked down in the mountains because we had no
I was
restriction there.
going to say, if you were to be stuck anywhere, that's a really good
I
place to
know,
be
that is
stuck.
the place. That is the place. And that place has given us such an amazing perspective of life, not just life, about everything. Because during that time, everything was shut down. There was no food supply, nothing. So, whatever we had on site, we were just trying to make good use of it. At one point in time, we ran out of our, toiletries, no shampoo, no conditioner, no soap. So, we were started using the herbal plants that the villagers told us what they used to do in olden days. So we were just back to basics, living very simple and happy life. And I have spent a lot of time with Digambarji talking about I don't know what not. So he gave me a very fresh perspective of looking into life. Actually, he introduced me to the real concept of yoga, what yoga is, not just the asan, not being upside down on the mat or doing the advanced asan. It's way more than that.
Mm.
And then I came back from India when the border has started open. Not really opening, but Australia has government has arranged some special flights for people to bring back home. So I came back, and then I joined my job back for a few more months because of some personal reasons. But then I decided that now this is not what I want to do. So I quit my corporate job forever. And I told Digambarji that I'm going to come with you and I will do whatever is needed. And even that time, it was not decided what I'm going to do. I didn't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But as the time passes, I just become the part of the furniture in Yogpeet now.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, you are in Melbourne at the moment, but you're often in Rishikesh and you're here and there. And also, you spent 4 months in Rishikesh. Was that on your own? Or because you mentioned you traveled with your son. So, were you on your own for those 4 months?
So yes, those 4 months I was on my own because I was only supposed to be there for 7 8 weeks, and I had planned to come back, but that time I was on my own. But after that, when I decided to join Rishikesh full time, that's when my actual travel started, and I started traveling like almost 4 to 5 times a year.
Hmm. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so how do you manage to do that then with a son, and you've a lovely husband who I've had the privilege to chat to as well, Nirman, who's been a great support and a great um link to keep me connected to Yog Peeth as well. So how do you manage it all?
Well, as everyone says that there is always a woman behind every successful man. So the saying goes opposite to me. Um, for all my happiness that I have experienced in 4 5 years after association with Yogpeet, and what I was able to do, because that gives me a immense happiness of I love what I do. But none of it was possible without Nirman's support, because he has always been a very strong pillar in my life. Uh, with with all these travel, like crazily traveling and staying there, and doing what I really love to do, it doesn't always very comfortable if you have a family, like our son is now 14-year-old, and Nirman has a very demanding job. He travels a lot, and he has long work hours. But still, when he see that I'm so passionate about what I do, he always try to support me, make or changes his plan to accommodate my travel or my stay in India. And now he's also involved in Rishikesh Yog Peeth, and he's very happy. So yes, I mean, he has always been a rock solid support for me to be able to do what I want to do. And I'm really hoping that he comes and join me full time, because then it will be a
Mm.
great team and we can take Rishikesh Yogpi to a new heights.
Oh, what a team. Yeah, it would be amazing.
He's
You'd work
amazing.
so well
He's
together.
just wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so glad to have him in my life. He's amazing. I do not have words to express my. I mean, although we, like any other couple, we fight a lot on our difference of opinions, but this is what the best thing about our team, that we both have our own set of views,
Mm.
own set of opinions and ideas, and then we talk to each other and we come out with some good planning. So yeah, I enjoy talking to him about the work and all. So it's great.
Yeah, and I can see clearly that he has the bug, if you want to call it, for or the same passion that you have for Yog Peeth and the place and the people that are there, and yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to ask you then, because you spoke about you just booked the course without really knowing, you didn't even know what a yoga teacher training was. And it all seems like divine timing because you were there much longer than you anticipated. And then when you did return and you quit your job, you seem to just have this, I don't know, is it like a calling or something to go back there? Like, and I remember we did speak about this while I was there as well, and lots of people felt the same thing, that the place itself has something very special that like calls people there, So what do you think it was that gave you the trust? Maybe did you have trust that everything was going to be okay when you got there, or how did you feel, or what was the feeling within you when you just, I don't know, closed your eyes and went, I'm going here.
A lot of people ask me this question, and then I really thought about it, that what actually has happened to me that I have decided to do it. And then after some time, I realized that yes, something had happened, but what was that? So yes, calling is the word that we use a lot in the modern days, that it was my
Mm.
calling. Yes, it is calling. Sometimes you have a calling to go to pub also, that I have to go to pub and dance and do whatever. But yes, it was a calling. But what actually happened, after giving a little bit of thought around the time I have spent in Yog Peeth, I realized that all these discussions, or all these sessions that I have with the similar minded people, and mostly so with Digambarji, what that has brought into me is If you take a step back and think why can't we do things that we really love to do? You would have heard people saying that I really want to do it, I really want to adopt this lifestyle, but I can't. What is that one thing that stops them? It's fear.
Mm.
It's fear. There is a different kinds of fear. Fear of losing your social status, fear of financial loss, fear of judgment in the society. There's a lot of fear. This time has actually helped me get rid of the fear in my life. So whenever we take a decision, we always say what if. Somehow this what if has completely erased from my life. And I was a kind of person who would so called practically think, assess situation, do
Mm.
all sort of analysis, do Google search about everything. So I'm a very logical, very practical this is what I thought about myself, that kind of person I was. But
Yeah.
when there was a time to decide this, it didn't even take me few minutes to decide, no, I'm ready for this. I will see what's going to happen in future. I'm ready for it, but this is how I want to live my life. So this time has, and the yogic experience has actually helped me get rid of this
Mm.
fear of missing out, fear of whatever. So I can see that now I live a sort of a fearless life. And if you remember, the name of that place is Abhyaranya, a fearless expression.
Mm.
So I truly lived those values of Abhyaranya, and I'm still going along with those values of being showing my fearless expression to myself, to my way of living, and being true to myself
Yeah.
as much as possible.
And I had that experience as well, because I think even when I look back on my notes from my initial training, um, it was so much about fearlessness. And that's one of my biggest, I still have fears about things, of course, but it's one of my biggest things that I try to focus on, and that I try to use what I've learned from yoga to remember to remind myself that I can be fearless with things. So I think, yeah, it's the same for me as well. I think that theme or something of fearlessness has stuck throughout the years. You know, it's
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Digambarji always says that it's very natural to have fears in life, but do not let those fears overpower your personality. So if you have fear, because fear is also, certain kind of fear is important. Those
Mm.
fears are survival instinct that we have, but we need to be aware enough to understand what kind of fear is that.
Mm.
And then if you think that this fear is not worth anything, like the biggest fear we live in this society is being judged by the society.
Yeah.
What kind of judgment are we feared of? So just just look eye to eye to that fear and ask question to yourself. This is a process, this doesn't happen in one day, it's just the process. We have to train ourselves, we have to feel the importance of the values that we talk about in the classes, in the philosophy classes, how to actually practice those values, and things happen. It changes the way we think, the way we live life, for good.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you're saying about things happen, and you kind of touched on it in different things that you said. There's something unexplainable about when you're in the right place at the right time. Because before I did my initial training, I worked as I had different management roles in hotels, and I did lots of trainings about how to train staff, and I was terrible. I couldn't speak in front of people. I literally felt my throat would block up if I had to speak in front of a group of people. So
Hmm.
when it was actually my husband suggested to me that I should do a yoga teacher training, and I said, there's no way I could teach yoga. How could I stand in front of people and talk to them? Like, it's not, I didn't think it was possible for me. I'm like, it's not something that I can do. And anyway, I booked the course like that. I was just like, no, I'm just going to do it and see what happens. And the first day, they asked us to stand up in front of people and just introduce ourselves. And I did
Hmm.
it without a second thought. I remember thinking, as if I was standing outside myself, watching myself, and
Yes.
thinking, how are you doing this? Oh my God, look at your confidence. Look how clearly you're speaking. And I couldn't explain it. I'm like, how all of a sudden am I this confident person who can speak to people and clearly express what I want to express. I'd never done that up to that point. So it's, yeah, there's some strange things that have happened along the way that are just unexplainable. And I just put it down to being around the right people at the right time. And yeah, I don't know how else to explain it.
I totally understand what you are saying. We cannot see because words have a very short boundary. Everything cannot be put in words, but these are something that you can only feel.
Mm-hmm.
Emotions are much more wider than the words. So yeah, some things are just to feel and enjoy.
Yeah. So I want to ask you as well about how the ashram that's there now came to be. Because, like I said, when I was in Rishikesh in 2016, there was a lot happening. They had just started development, I suppose. So, can you speak to how Roshanji and Digambarji started with this
Sure.
project, if you'd like to call it? I don't know.
Yeah. See, the existence of Rishikesh Yog Peeth was a desperate move from two young people who were desperately trying to meet ends in their life and earn money, so to speak, very
Mm,
honestly.
yeah.
So Digambarji and Roshanji has a long list of businesses which has failed drastically in the past, like two youngsters trying to do something, let's change the world, let's make some difference, and one after another they have this experience of unsuccessful failure business and all, and they were just like any other youngsters in the society. But we all have this thing inside us that comes out at the right time in the right place.
Mm,
So I do not know exactly the moment when this Rishikesh Yogpit idea came into existence, but as we all know that Rishikesh is the hub of yoga teacher training courses. And that time it was just picking up. Slowly it was coming into existence. Probably they thought this as a new business idea.
mm,
And then they have established a school, but only after starting a school then they realize, sometimes you don't know what you're going to start, but this actually has a potential to change your life, the way you look at the life, the way you think about it. So as the training progresses, when they have seen the changes in the student who are coming for this training, and when they leave the school, the change that they are experiencing, at the same time these two gentlemen were also feeling change inside them, because now they were into this idea of yoga. So after running this school for some time, which I mean it was going very well, because they were doing this, although it was a business that time initially, but they were doing it with full integrity and with full honesty, that if someone is coming, they have to get the right kind of teacher, have a right kind of program to give them as much as possible um, a course which can make a difference to their life. So that honesty was always there. Now during this process, after some time, when the business has started returning well in the market, then they realized that this is something very serious than we thought it is. This is not just a business, this is not just a commercial venture, it has a potential, it has a lot of potential to bring change to people's life. And that's when this idea came in, that if we are feeling so much connected to this concept of yoga, why not do something not really different, but in a more righteous way. And then they realized that to experience the closest yogic life, like how um, impactful this can be, the first thing that came to their mind was to change the location, because that time it was right in the middle of the city.
mm,
And that's when they realized that it not just the classroom studies are not enough, we need to give the right kind of environment, the right experience, the right routine, everything, whatever is possible, we should align those things with what we are doing. And then they started looking for a place to start a school where we can give them the right kind of atmosphere. In that effort, normal people will go and buy a piece of land. These two crazy guys bought a hill. They just bought the hill. And then,
It did sound crazy because
and honest,
when I was listening to the kind of updates that were happening every day, I was like, what are they doing? Like it did sound crazy because the
it
location is
is.
quite remote.
Now this is today when we go there, we still think that yeah, that's fine, there is a proper way to go up there. At that time there was not even a path to go up there, because the village which is up
Imagine.
further up the school, they have a different path to go to their home. There was no nothing. And I don't know why they thought it. And this is what Digambarji always says, that we have not done anything, we were just the instrument of creating
Mm,
something big. He never take this credit that we have done anything. Even till date, if someone asked me, said we haven't done anything, we were just the instrument to
mm,
make this happen. So they bought a hill, and obviously it has taken way longer time to build than what they have anticipated. So you have been to the site, you have seen those walls that you see there on which the entire structure is built. That is only one third of the wall that you see on top. The two-third wall is inside the ground to stop that hill from falling. So it was and another interesting part is that there was no professional hired to get this construction done. It was all the Gambarji, because he had some idea, some common sense, and some god grace. He has got this knowledge that he has completely designed the place, and put his thought that how the construction should be done. So in this whole arrangement, Roshan ji was the front face of Rishikesh Yog Peeth, who was taking the classes and everything. So he was the face of the Rishikesh Yog Peeth, and Digambar ji was the engine room. He was getting everything
mm.
done from behind. So he was behind the curtain. So
Yeah.
that was the partnership between these two friends. They are like thickest of the thickest in their, in their
Thick as
relationship. So
thieves.
yeah, yeah. So that's how they have built. So it has taken almost 10 to 11 years to start that place. And you have seen that place is not big. I mean, if you imagine the same kind of construction in a flat ground, that would be done
Mm,
like in 4 to 5 months if you have enough funds available. That has taken around 10 to 11
mm.
years, and the construction is still on. Still we are, making. When you came, there was a new building that we were
Yeah.
constructing. Yeah, so that is still there. Yeah, so
People can
that's
send the
how they
photos on
created that
Instagram.
place.
The the rooms, the floors, and there's changes all the time, I think, yeah.
It changes, yeah. um, and that place is so complex that even if an architect or a plumber or an electrician will come to that place, they would never understand how things have been done, because these are done by absolute rookies, and it is maintained by absolute rookies now. So even the cottages that you see, that the design of the cottage, the
Yeah.
internal woodwork and everything. So the very first cottage that was built was room number 112, the very first one, 112, and that was handmade by the Gambarji. He built
Wow.
that cottage as a model room, and then that was replicated. So yes, it was it is a very magical project where no professional was hired, no trained people were there, no idea how it is going to happen, but it still happened. So when things are meant to happen, it happens.
Mm.
So that was a sheer example of determination and the faith in what they were doing. That was the only thing that keep them going even after such a delayed timeline to complete the project. They believed in this project, and that's why it is into existence today.
Yeah. Wow. It's a fascinating story, isn't
Absolutely.
it? So, just in the day-to-day running of the ashram, I suppose you kind of seem like the go-to person when you're there because you spend your time between Rishikesh and Melbourne.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're there, you seem to do, and I think it's the same with all the staff. Everybody kind of chips in and helps out wherever help is needed. But you seem
Mm.
to be the go-to person. You're now one of the directors of. Yog Peeth, and yeah, you seem like the glue that holds everything together. You you seem like you're just managing everything with ease and with grace, and you're here, there, and everywhere. I used to look at you going, how is she here now? And she's there, and you're just always busy. But just in the day-to-day running of an ashram, because I suppose when I speak to people on this podcast, I've really only spoken to usually yoga teachers who just have to manage themselves. Or in some cases, they collaborate with other yoga teachers and maybe they do teacher trainings, but it's on a much smaller level than what Yogpeeth is, because not only is there teacher trainings there, but you run retreats. So there's kind of people coming and going all the time. There's a lot of people have been through the doors there, yeah,
Yes.
over the years.
More than 18,000 people in last 17 years.
Yeah, it's amazing,
More
isn't
than
it?
120 countries. So almost the entire globe has visited us.
Yeah. And so there's that to consider as well. It's not just, the volume of people, but it's people from every corner of the world, from different cultures, different languages. There's so much to consider in the general running of the place, which I find really interesting. And, you seem to do it so well, but I'm sure it's difficult at times. And I think one of the reasons why I was really interested to talk to you is over over the last, well, couple of years, I suppose, I have just been interested in looking at how these organizations, let's call them, run. And like any organization, there's always problems. And I suppose how do I put this? How do you consider, maybe let's start to how we consider the safety of students, first of all, just in relation to even like physical, like in asana classes, but also like their emotional and spiritual safety. Because, like I said, people come from all over the world, they have different views on life. Although, once we obviously have things in common if everybody is coming there for yoga, but there's so much to consider when looking after so many people. So, can you speak to that in any way about how you try to look after people?
Sure.
Just students for now, and then maybe we'll talk about the management of the teachers and the other staff then.
Sure. So, Kitty, when we talk about this safety and concern for the student, yes, this is highly, at a high level, it's divided into two parts: the physical safety and emotional safety, as you rightly put into words. So, I'll first talk about the emotional safety.
Mm,
So, when people come here from all walks of life, different cultures, different age group, different life experiences, and there is something in this what we do yoga, that when you stay here for a few weeks and you do the yogic practices, and bear in mind these yogic practices are, now the science has established that it has got a very strong psychological impact, emotional stimulation. So
mm,
everything that now science has put into perspective and given a different names, it was always there in yogic practices. And why I'm mentioning this is that whenever we talk about emotional health or emotional safety or emotional well-being, it is always in the current modern world is always linked to the psychology and
mm,
things like that. So when we talk about this, almost I could say almost in every batch we have this experience that people come and then they start doing yogic practices, which is not just asana, it's meditation, it's shat karma kriya, it's philosophy classes, it's among sitting and talking among like-minded people, as well as the place where the ashram is.
mm,
Sometimes you would have felt that you just wanted to sit quietly alone, do not want to talk to anyone, just be in the silence, mourn. What that happens is that it stirs you from inside, it literally stirs you emotionally. And sometimes the release of this emotion comes in different forms. Sometimes people get just quiet, sometimes they start crying, uncontrollable stream of tears you will feel, and sometimes they are angry, it comes out in form of anger.
mm.
So all these sort of things we have seen. Now, what we think is the best way to handle this emotional, concern of, because we are always on a our guards are always high to how to protect our student from, going down the slippery path even when they are at the yoga practice. Sometimes, they just close themselves completely and do not want to talk. So
Yeah.
initial, and all our teachers are very well aware of all these impacts or all these manifestation that happens during the training program. They are well aware of it. So this is always handled on case by case basis. Sometimes we just leave a student to go through this process, like, if they feel like, they are just they just want to sit in the corner and they just want to, release this, whatever is there inside them, and started slightly opening and not the
Mm.
emotions. We just let them. When they need to talk to someone, we have the Gambarji, our spiritual leader, who's always available if someone wants to talk to them. But we always make sure that this thing comes from the student side,
Mm.
not from our side, most of the time. So if they are willing to talk, we never push anyone to talk, we never push anyone to share their feelings with us. We are always there around them to protect them, to, support them. But
Mm.
we never push them or put them into a separate room and say that, now you are going through this therapy, this psychological assessment, nothing.
Mm.
And we do not even want to give any particular name to any of this. This is just a cycle of human emotion.
Mm.
So we, as cliche as it sounds, but we go with the flow. We go with the flow, and then when they are ready to talk, we are always, always, always available for them.
Mm.
So this is how we try to manage the emotional safety of our student, that, they do not get into that slippery slope and getting. Most of the people who have come for retreat here, they are, nowadays I have seen this trend a lot, Katie, that they are dealing with extreme anxiety and depression. And after 7 days, after most of them says that, it has just changed my life forever,
Mm.
and we have done actually nothing.
Yeah.
We are just being ourselves, that's it.
Yeah.
So so sometimes what I have felt, that all you need is a human compassion.
Mm.
We do not always need to put a name to every condition, every psychological condition, or, try to find out ways with different analysis and things like that. And you have noticed that the entire staff that we have, whether they are working in the kitchen or housekeeping or front office or teaching staff, they are very human,
Yeah.
very, very human. So people who are coming from very organized world, very, advanced communities, i'm s- please don't take me wrong, but somehow we are surrounded with a very robotic behavior.
Yeah.
And when they come to a place where they meet humans, like, they talk without any filter, they
Mm.
can speak their heart without any fear, they are fearless, they are compassionate,
Mm.
they will spend time with you without expecting anything in return.
Mm.
All the staff there, if you go and talk to someone, they would never say to you that, oh, I have some work to do, I'll talk to you later. They will
Mm.
always have time for you. These are the small things which you can call it as a therapy, that work as a therapy. We are overwhelmed with their behavior, that how come everyone is always smiling and so polite, and they're always available when you need them.
Yeah.
That's it. So we just being ourselves, that's all we do, and that's
Mm.
how we take care of their emotional,
Mm. And I love that because,
well-being.
and that's something that did strike me when I was on the train. And I remember one of the teachers talked about that, about how we don't, I think, well, in Ireland anyway, we tend to put labels on everything. Everybody has a condition or everybody has something. And when we spoke about not labeling things, it felt like there was actually more compassion or something around it. This is just an acceptance that this is how it is right now. And like you said, part of a cycle of being a human.
Hmm, True.
And then I think it leads to less judgment, perhaps, if there's less labels.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a very good word that you have chosen, because this is what I was lacking when I was talking to you. This place give our student a feel that this is a judgment free zone for them. They can be
Totally. Yeah.
themselves. We do not judge.
Mm.
So this is, and even when we talk to our friends, our behavior changes when we talk to person 1 to person 2 to person 3, because we know how they're gonna judge us, so accordingly we modify our speech with them. But here you do not have to put any filter. They take away their mask, no
Mm.
matter what they are in their country, what kind of family they belong to, what kind of work they are doing. Here everyone is same, everyone is same. So this is the comfort that they feel, and this is the release that they experience when they sometimes say that I don't know why I'm crying.
Mm.
All the tears are coming out of my eyes, but I'm still feeling very, very happy.
Mm.
So these are the things that we talk about initially, that you cannot put words to it. It just the feelings that you, the emotions that you feel. So
Mm.
this is just a very, very basic thing that we have completely forgotten. So here we try to stick to our basics. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and we forget that so often, don't we? We try to complicate things.
Yes.
Or we don't try to complicate things, we do complicate things. And I try to remind myself all the time, just take it back to the basics. It's just the simple things. Like you said, just being human, just being there for somebody without expecting anything in return. It's so powerful.
That's it.
Mm. And then, so then flipping that in terms of the staff that work there, because obviously, if you have people that come from all different walks of life and maybe have different expectations about what the course should be, or what the accommodation should be, or the food, or you know how do you look after the staff? Is there any difficulties with students and staff? Is there ever times where, yes, you need to kind of look after the staff and kind of protect them from students, say, or each other, or
um, no, there is nothing like protecting one from another. It's just that we just try to educate them
Mm,
sometimes. Although, one thing that I would never like to take away from my staff is their simplicity, their
mm,
unprofessionalism, not in a negative way. But
yeah.
when you go to a five-star hotel, everything is so perfect, but you can't find a human there. Here
Yeah.
we do a lot of mistakes. We do, there is a lot of problem at the site. You cannot even count them. But when we deal with human, and with their smiling face, everything looks small. So here the effort is, and this is what Digambarji always says to everyone, especially to me, that when you look at the problem, don't, the more big you think, the more bigger it will become.
Mm,
Whenever there is a problem in front of you, just try to look at like a very minuscule problem, and then you will make it even smaller and very insignificant, and that will help you handle it. Otherwise you will panic, which I do. This is my work in progress thing. Try not to inflate the problem and make it bigger. So this is what our staff also does. So uh, this change starts with me, actually, because I am the one who talk to the customer, who talk to the students when they want to book the course.
mm,
And I give them all the information. And more often than not, Katie, you would think that I make crowd sound crazy, but sometimes I desell our product.
mm,
Where I can tell 10 good things about our product, I will only tell them 7 good things and 3 things that are not available there. Because
mm,
I want people to have a right kind of expectation before
mm,
coming here. That place is very challenging to maintain and to provide this stuff. So when I talk, that's why I always prefer to talk to a student before they do the booking. And sometimes, and it happens almost once every 2 3 weeks, that I do not take the booking.
mm,
When I talk to them and I realize that probably this is not the place for them, there is a lot of expectation mismatch. Sometimes
mm,
people book a place in desperation that no, 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 I want to come here, but still they have a very different mindset. Oh, so I have to do my own laundry. Oh, I have to clean my room. Ah, am I going to wash my own dishes? Oh, you do not do this. Oh, even that is not also, that is not available. When these kind of questions start coming, then it is my time to sense that whether the person, I'm not saying that whether that person is fit for the place, probably we are not fit for them.
Mm.
And it is not about 1 or 2 days, it's about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or 8 weeks courses,
Yeah.
right? They have to take a decision and come all the way from their country,
Mm.
across the globe, to be here. So I do not want them to be shocked when they come here. That's why I put a filter first, and with best of my ability I take the booking, so that my staff, and this is what I do to protect my staff there, so that they do not have to deal with these kind of challenges. But having said that, it happens, when people come here. For example, in June, I was there. June was extreme weather condition. Temperature goes to 45, and air conditioning is only available when the government supply electricity line is on. If that is down, we cannot run the ACs, because we only have a generator that doesn't have enough backup to switch on the ACs. So there's a lot of complaints about it, and lot of not lot of sorry, I should not say lot, but a few students who are not used to that kind of temperature. And I understand that they're coming from a country where they haven't seen temperature more than 22-degree, and here they're dealing
Mm.
with 45 degrees. So that's where the staff, they show their compassion, that yes, we do understand you are going through it,
Mm.
but unfortunately we cannot do anything about it. But we try to make other things more comfortable for them, if not by anything, then just by keeping our smiling face, be gentle to them, asking them how they are doing, talking to them, whatever we can do, because there are certain limitations, and these are real challenges.
Mm.
And sometimes we do face a situation where students behavior is extreme, very extreme, and these are very, very far and few examples. That's
Mm.
where we hold a right to ask them to leave the premises. That could be because of some substance usage, because that is absolutely prohibited there, substance usage, or their poor behavior choices while they are at the ashram, their behavior with their co-students or teachers. So in that case we take strong actions, unfortunately, but that is also required to maintain the sanity of that place, and to maintain the safety, mental health and safety of our student.
Mm. And the respect of everybody as well, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's one other aspect of the kind of safety that I want to touch on as well. So in 2020, I read a book called Yoni Shakti by Uma Dinsmore Tully, and she actually listed a whole load of yoga teachers and ashrams that have been accused of some sort of abuse, whether it be sexual abuse or physical abuse in some way, or even verbal abuse. There was lots of different cases in lots of different places, and she said quite clearly that these places are not safe for women. And well, I believe there's obviously proof in that, because she had individual stories and individual cases of different places. Because I think it can be easy for these types of organizations, and it's not just in the yoga world, this is every organization.
Yes.
But when we talk about in yoga as well, when people go there, they may be emotionally vulnerable, they may be going through something like that, just leaving their full-time job, or just almost running away from their life in some way. And they arrive in these places where I suppose they're expecting, they're trusting that they're going to be looked after in some way. And then in some cases, they're not. Terrible things can happen. So I just wanted to ask, I suppose, in your organization, is there procedures in place around specifically like sexual misconduct?
Yeah, absolutely. And the topic that you have raised is a very, very real topic, and there is 100% truth about it. Yes, things happen, um, unfortunately, in our world as well. And thanks for mentioning that this is not just the yoga world. This is
Mm,
everywhere, whether,
mm,
and the The challenge is that especially people when they are very vulnerable, going through emotional challenges in life, they choose the path of religion or yoga. And that's
Mm.
why you see that not just yoga world, but the ashrams, the churches, the mosque,
Yeah, and I
people
mean, we
have
have
this kind
in
of.
Ireland we have numerous cases. I mean, it's
Yes,
crazy. It's clear that it's not just the yoga world, but it seems to be maybe in organizations where there's structures of power, where there's a
yes.
hierarchy sometimes. I think that can be maybe one of the issues.
Yes, yes, and absolutely right. Yes. To your question, how do we ensure this, and do we have a procedure or a process in place? Yes, we do. I can say this with a lot of confidence that in these 17, 18 years of our history, we have never been, you know, um, be on a side where allegations have been raised. These things are real, and to make sure that we do not fall into these kind of serious issues, all our teachers who are very reputed, very good teachers, we have a very honest talk with them, with our teacher about this. Not just from student side, from teacher side also it is important. During our orientation, we very clearly express the way of teaching in the ashram, because we teach hatha yoga, that, and we also applies a lot of alignment and adjustment. As you have experienced in the classes, there's a
Mm.
lot of alignment and adjustment. So during orientation we share them, we have this kind of classes wherein you teacher may come and physically they will do a verbal cue, they will physically adjust you. So at any point in time, if you feel uncomfortable, you can immediately stop the teacher. And now we have implemented a consent card in all our
Mm.
yoga halls. So what that consent card is, it has yes and no. Sometimes as a female we feel that we don't want to hurt anyone's feeling, but somehow I'm not feeling
Yeah.
comfortable, someone is touching me. And this is not just the male touch, sometimes
Mm.
female even do not like female touch, it's just the touch of from someone else, we just don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So now we have a consent card that if for any reason they do not feel comfortable, they don't have to say anything. Just put that consent card in front of them on no side, and teacher will not physically adjust you. It does not mean, sometimes students have this fear that, oh, if I'll say no, then probably teacher will not adjust me and then I will
Mm.
not be able to have a proper learning. So we ensure them that there is nothing like that. You would still be adjusted, but then it will be through the verbal cues. So that's how we make sure. Earlier we do not, few years ago we did not realize the importance of the CCTV cameras in the yoga hall, but now we have CCTV cameras in all the yoga hall. They are active during the classes. And just in case if someone has a concern, they can always come and talk to us. Apart from that, the biggest thing that we do in our ashram is to create a very comfortable, very open atmosphere, so that they feel, if someone is feeling unsafe,
Mm.
they can come and talk. At least with one teacher they can definitely come and talk. That's why we have a female teacher also. Sometimes it gives you a lot of confidence and comfort that a female talk. We have a female teacher, we have a female staff member, so that they can comfortably talk. And I am the final point of escalation, like if there is anything, and all the staff member knows that if some student come and say that they are not feeling right and they want to talk to someone,
Mm.
I'm always there. So I get onto the call, I talk to them. So that's how we ensure. And to go a further next step, my one of the responsibility that I have taken upon myself is that in each and every batch I randomly talk to people after, during their courses, one on one basis, and
Mm.
after their courses. If I'm on site, it is easier for me to talk to everyone, and I do that. When I'm there, everyone is very
Mm.
comfortable coming and talking to me. But when I'm in Australia, I always make sure that I just randomly say hi to people who are in the course, or sometimes after leaving the course I talk to them, generally ask them how was the course. This is also an effort to take the feedback that where we can improve and where we are lacking. And if someone felt this way, they will definitely open up and talk to me. So we try
Mm.
to create that sort of environment, without making anyone feel uncomfortable, neither our teacher nor the students. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I genuinely felt that as well, that there was always somebody there. And you did it so casually as well. You would always just check in, even at dinner, how's everything for you today? Just a general chit chat. It was never like an official, like you were taking notes on
Hmm.
anything. But I was
Yeah.
always aware that you were always just checking in, saying hi with everybody. And I think that relaxed approach does help people to open up and be honest about if there's something going on, if they need to share something.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes.
So yeah, thanks for touching on that, because I know it's a sensitive subject, but I think it's really important as well, because it is maybe a concern, and it's something that people maybe should consider and make sure that they are going to somewhere that they will be looked after. And um
And it is not just important because every time when we talk about these things, we always talk on behalf of a student, but this is equally important for the teachers as well.
yeah, of course.
Equally important because there have been cases, and if you see the local newspaper of Rishikesh, you will see these cases every second third day that someone has raised allegation against the teacher, or teacher has raised allegation against the student. These kind of things happen. And that's why, and this is a serious thing, and this is something that not everyone is comfortable talking about it. In fact, what I have noticed in my experience, that when the allegations are wrong, person is very very loud. But when the allegations are right, they because if it is something genuine, they will think twice before saying anything.
Mm,
They would think, am I, is it just me, or is it real, or something like that. Because in when I was there in March, I met one of the girl who was doing 300 hours there, and she has done 200 hours from some other school few years back in Rishikesh. I wouldn't take the name of the school.
mm,
And she shared her experience with me. She said that, in after 2 or 3 classes, I realized that maybe I'm not feeling something right. But I realized that all other students in that class, they were so happy and was very, um, you know um, they were feeling great about the experience they are having with the teacher. So I was confused that, am I right, am I not right? Then she said that towards the end of the course, I heard like another girl talking about the same thing that I have been experiencing. So
mm.
it's like an elephant in the room. Everyone is seeing, but no one wants to talk because they thought that they will be outcasted if they'll talk about it.
Yeah, but I also think that's an important point as well, and it's something that I say to my students as well, just in the weekly yoga asana class. You need to listen to that, whatever it is inside you. If you feel that something's not right, it's okay to walk away from somewhere. It's okay not to be in a space that you don't feel comfortable in. You don't need to you don't need to explain to anybody. You don't need to tell them why, or that you don't feel comfortable. It's like what you said when people are applying to come on courses. You kind of judge maybe sometimes that it's not suitable for some people because they'll have a different expectation, or that it won't be the right place for them. Because how can one place be right for everybody? We all have different needs, and we all have different attitudes, and we're all different. So we can't, not every yoga class or yoga course is going to be right for everybody. So I think it's really important as a yoga student to discern what's right for you. And although it might be uncomfortable, and I think this is part of being a yoga student, that fearlessness, like treat it as part of your practice to be able to stand up and say, actually, this is not the place for me, or this is not the right teacher for me, or whatever. And it doesn't have to be as extreme as some sort of sexual misconduct, but maybe you just don't have the right vibe with the place or the person.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And see, honestly, if you will try to put a structure to it that this is the procedure that we follow so that someone can raise a issue, this is the process step we follow, this is a particular role in our organization, this person only looks after this sexual misconduct or discomfort of a student. It doesn't work,
Yeah.
because this is the corporate structure that we have always seen, and in my own experience it doesn't work. And that's why I think that, and I focus a lot on it, that we create an environment, such an environment, that people feel comfortable talking to at least someone, not all the
Mm.
staff member. We have so many teachers and so many staff. During their time, at least they will feel comfortable and connected to one person they can raise issue with.
Yeah.
So I think that is the, in my view, it's more powerful way of protecting our student and teacher both, to create such an environment that they can speak up.
Mm. I'm just conscious of your time, but I do have one or two more questions, if that's okay.
No problem, I have time. I have kept 2 hours for you, so that's okay.
Ah, thank you. Um, yeah, I just want to go to, talk about the course content and how, yeah, you create the courses, because something like I find really interesting. It's something that I eventually want to do, to bring my teaching to a deeper level, to be able to train teachers. And one
Yes,
other thing I want to kind of drop in there as well, because it's something that I found really important, that while you're associated with the Yoga Alliance, and obviously there's certain structures that you have to bring in to be able to give that certificate, I suppose. The reason I went to India is because there is something a little bit more special about, well, I felt anyway, about the teachings there. And yeah, so I wonder how you marry that as well.
see, if you talk about a yoga school which is really effective in what they are doing, and if you really feel connected to the school, and you realize that this was the best 4 weeks or 5 weeks of your life that you have spent there learning yoga. I won't say this has nothing to do with the course content, but it has a very little to do with the course content. It
Mm,
has a lot to do with people around it, around whom you are surrounded by, the way they have delivered the course. Because course content is a very, very superficial level of any yogic learning.
mm,
You have everything in the current day and age that you can get on Google. More than that, more than, I mean, you can spend your life reading about yoga, and still a lifetime would be less if you just talk about the content. So it's not the content. Of course, content is important. I'm not discounting the importance of it, but it is not the course content. Um, so, to create an effective course content, I believe your own understanding, your own, more than understanding, your own faith of yogic practice is very important. Understanding is a very technical word, but faith is a very spiritual and a very deep word. You may have an understanding of an asana, but do you have a faith in that asana, that what that can do for you, where it can take you in life? Just one asana, just sukhasana, if you are able to do it perfectly. Do you have faith in that asana, or do you have understanding of that asana? So this is where most of the yoga school hang. Some school, a lot of school has great understanding. A very few school have faith in what they do. And I can say it with a lot of pride that we are among those school that has true faith in what we do, and that drives the content. Because for all practical reasons, yes, we do need a registration with Yoga Alliance, because that's what allows you to become a certified teacher in your country, so we need that. But Yoga Alliance guidelines are very, very high level, very superficial. I can just put whatever we put in our content right now. Even if I put like a 25% of it, I would still be Yoga Alliance certified school. But our purpose, we have to think about it, that our purpose is to just deliver a course which fits in Yoga Alliance guideline, or are we here to make some changes in our student life. I mean, ultimately, you will make change, but we can only show a path. We are not going to make any change to your life. We do not have that potential. We can only show you the path. So, in effort of showing that path, we create a content, and this content is ever changing. If you have
Mm.
done 200 hour from our school 2 months, 2 years ago, and if you come after 1 year, you will see it has changed, because it is an ever evolving process. From our own experience, we learned that now we can introduce this as well. Probably we should not focus a lot on this part. Reason being that when we talk about yoga, this is a boundaryless space we are talking about. If it has a boundary, we can still aim to cover everything in that boundary one day. But just imagine a space where there is no boundary. There are so many things. So you can only pick a few things that with your right judgment or with your honest judgment, you can think that it will help someone. So we try to just, and what you do in yoga training is just not even a drop in the ocean, because the actual practice, the actual experience start when you go back from here. These classroom studies can
Mm.
only give you a certificate, a paper certificate with certain stamps and certain registration number written on it. It will never make you a teacher. It will never make you a yogic practitioner. It can make you a gymnast if you want, flexible body. It can make you a bodybuilder with a lot of strengthening asana, but can never make you a yogi or a teacher. This is your own practice. So in our content, and especially the way we deliver our course, we focus a lot on human aspect of it. And then comes the second part, that what should be the part of content. So we try to include things which connects with each other, rather than looking random, that in asana class we are teaching certain asana, but in anatomy we are teaching something very different,
Mm.
or in philosophy there is no connection to asana and anatomy. A good content, in my view, a good content is such that in the morning you go to your class, you do shatkarma kriya, you do mantra chanting, and then you do your asana class. When after breakfast you come for your anatomy class, you can relate it back to your asana class, that oh, this is what I have done, this is what the impact on my body is. I can see the connection. When you do your philosophy class, you can see the spiritual aspect of it.
Mm.
And then alignment adjustment is a technical class, and then meditation, then you can internalize everything during your meditation. So if, and this is a big challenge for any yoga school who want to do a good job in this market, is that everyone sees yoga as asan and asan.
Mm.
They're
Mm.
all, most of their questions are around what kind of yoga do you teach? Hatha yoga, ashtanga, vinyasa, yin yoga. Do you do this? What all asanas you are teaching? And I don't know, I may sound sometimes very arrogant, but I never give straight answer to this question. I just tell them that we teach yoga, that's it. There is
Yeah.
no bifurcation of yoga. This is the imagination and innovation and creation of a modern world. Yoga is just one, and
Mm.
the physical aspect of that is hatha yoga, that's it. So when you come here, I cannot tell you what all asana you are going to learn, because we do not have a list of it. So yeah, that's always a challenge.
Um, yeah, and I definitely found that. I think actually I could see a real progression to when I did my 200-hour training. Like I couldn't fault it in any way, but when I did the 300-hour training, that structure that you talked about, the what we did in the morning linked to what we did in the evening was much clearer. There was much more structure around it. It felt more, it was an easier flow to it. It made a bit more sense in that way. So yeah, like you said, you grow when you learn when you do these things and you learn what to do and what not to do. So I could definitely see that after throughout the years. Um yeah, so there was one very important thing that I wanted to talk to you about. And I had asked you about this when I was there last August. Um, but we got interrupted halfway through. You started telling me about it, and I was like, oh, I need to talk to her again. And we just didn't get the chance to sit and talk about it. But so one of the first things I noticed when I arrived, when I finally made my way up the hill, was the tree at the center of the ashram. And I always feel really connected to trees. And we have a tradition in Ireland as well where we tie ribbons or some sort of material onto the tree, um, for either protection or to make a wish, or and the trees are also connected to fairies as well in Ireland. And I could see a lot of similarities to some of the rituals that we were doing um, at the ashram. But I remember you spoke about how important the tree is to the place, and obviously we did do certain rituals while we were there. And the tree seemed really to me like the beating heart of the place. And we did speak about how there's a certain energy to that location, that land there. And I know lots of people felt it when I was there, and I think you feel it as well. And I think the tree, to me anyway, is a part of that. I don't know. It seems to be the thing that holds everything together. I don't know. Can you speak to that a little bit?
It's all about faith. When I talk about faith, it's
Mm,
all about faith. But there are certain anecdotes as well about it, and especially the tree. So this tree that we are talking about is a people tree. It's called people tree. And very surprisingly, it just occurred to me that I have never seen that tree anywhere else in the world. I have traveled quite a few countries, but this people tree I have never seen anywhere. It's only in India. I don't know why. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe just my observation. So people tree has a very, very high spiritual significance in um, Indian mythology or Indian
mm,
belief, faith system. I don't know how much it is true, and I do not even wish to find out a scientific way, because I have stopped doing that since I left my corporate. I have stopped doing this scientifically proven. I don't want to prove anything scientifically as long as I feel that right.
yeah.
So it is a belief that people tree has a memory, emotional memory of more than 5,000 years. So that holds the memory, and it goes back. Now one can argue that how can a tree have a memory? So in the Indian belief system, tree, whether it is a tree or animal or a human, we all are being, and we all have our role in this world. Humans are no different than the tree. We have shared existence on this planet. And that's why this topic may digress a little bit, but eventually I'll come back to the point. I'm just
Yeah.
giving you a little bit of background. A lot of people, when they come from the Western countries, sometimes out of curiosity, sometimes a little bit of fun, sometimes a hint of sarcasm, they ask that why do you Indian worship everything? You worship tree, you worship cow, you worship animal, you worship sun, everything. So for us, they are God. So God, as in God is, for us, what is the definition of God? Anything that helps you with your existence, a blissful existence in this life, is God. So our life is not possible without the existence of sun, that we bow our head and show our respect to that. A tree, your existence is not possible without a tree. And out of many trees, there are certain trees that are literally worshipped as God, which is like a tulsi plant, a small plant, which is known as
Mm,
basil, but it is a different kind of basil. And in Yog Peeth also, you would have seen there are two big plants of tulsi.
mm,
Because of it is very, very high medicinal values that science has now established, and this has been worshipped from thousands and thousands of years in India. We worship um, the tulsi plant. We worship cow. Cow is a gift of God, and the anatomy of a cow is almost same as anatomy of a woman. Scientifically speaking, both are mammals. Their
mm,
gestational time, their emotion toward their baby, everything is exactly same. So cow is a mother. In Indian culture, even if a cow is not able to give milk, a cow is injured or old, we always keep them in their house as a member unless it's died natural death. So that's why all these things, these are faith, these are very strong faith. Now if you go into detail, you may find some more this thing, but this is the faith. And this all comes from a Sanskrit phrase called Vasudev Kutumbakam. The entire universe is our family. We are not a superior being as we human think that we are the superior being on the planet. No, we are not. Tomorrow, if human erased from this planet, nothing will happen to this planet. But if trees erased from this planet, the planet will not exist. So we are the most insignificant one. Keeping that belief in mind, we very respectfully bow our head to anything, any being that helps us a meaningful, blissful existence in this life. So that's why we worship all this. Now, the significance of that people tree. This is again a very strong belief. But when the owner, the founder of this place, Roshan ji and Digambar ji bought that place, obviously they'll have to cut the hill, they have to cut a lot of trees there. But the entire planning was done around that tree, that that tree should be there unharmed, and we will design everything around it, because that tree has such a great energy, and people who come in contact with that tree, they feel a sense of guardianship from that tree, that as if it's a guardian angel.
Mm.
And people may believe it or not, we do that that tree has saved us from many calamities. A recent one was that when you came to the ashram for your 300 hour, a year before that we had a very huge rainfall, and the water stream that is
Yeah.
right in the middle of the ashram.
Yeah.
So now we have to make it more sophisticated to pass the water, but at that time it wasn't very properly built, so the water direction, the water flow which was coming, it has become uncontrollable flow,
Mm.
and that has completely destroyed the front office. Everything like computer table, everything was just flowing in Ganga ji, gone into the river. And the water flow was so hard that I was not present on the location, but people who were there, they said that if that water flow would have continued like that for another 15-20 minutes, the ground floor yoga hall, the cottages, everything would have wiped out. It has taken with it. Not sure from where, a big rolling stone, a big rock came rolling down and stuck with the tree, and that has bifurcated the force of the water, and that has saved the entire ashram.
Mhm.
So that was just one of the example. And another one that Digambarji shared with me was when they were building the ashram, because as I mentioned, there was no trained or qualified architect was hired or anything. So they all were thinking about what should be done, what not should be done. And that time it was a very initial level. And somehow they were not getting the right place to make the yoga hall,
Mm.
the big yoga hall, because that was a very big plain ground that they were meant to build. So somehow it was not falling into place, and they were not sure what to do, things were getting delayed. And he said that whenever I was in confusion or was not sure of what to do, had no clue, or feeling helpless, I would just go and sit under that tree and just close my eyes, sort of a meditate, and somehow the solution just come to me.
Mm.
And based on those things, whatever step I have taken have been the success for this thing. So it was like a go-to place that when you are just feel shattered, you just feel as if nothing is working out, you have no support, no energy, that
Mm.
tree has always given. And this is again faith. This is
Mm.
nothing but the faith. There are millions and millions of trees. Do you really get anything from them? Yes, if you believe. So basically it's believing, it's faith, that's
Mm.
it.
And so some of the rituals that we would have tied some string onto the
Yeah.
trees. What is the significance of that?
Yes, so that ritual that you have done is called sankalpa ceremony. Sankalp means, there are many Hindi and Sanskrit words that you cannot find a exact word in English, but the closer word is determination. Determination or promise, making a promise to yourself. And the string that you have tied, that was a red color
Mm.
string. That was a very special string that also has a very spiritual significance. This is not just any string. That has got like a 7 strings within it, and it is
Mm.
colored with red and yellow. So that is a very different thing. I won't discuss that,
Yeah.
otherwise we'll take a lot of time. So it's not any other string, it's a very special string. So with that string we do a sankalp, like when you rotate, take a circle round the tree, which means you are making a promise to yourself of whatever it is. Some people do a promise that they would be honest to themselves while they are in the training, or whatever, anything that you want to do, you just promising that, and the tree will give you the strength, the energy. So basically the significance of tree, that tree, the people tree, is that, you know how when we do the vrakshasan in our yoga pose, the tree pose, when we do,
Mm-hmm.
if teacher explains you in a spiritual way, you have to think yourself as a tree. The foot which is on the ground, you feel it like the roots of the tree, so that, often people struggle with the balance. So
Mm.
the balance will come with a stable mind. First you calm down your mind, and then you stand straight on the floor. Think the foot which is on the ground, think it as a root of the tree which is so strong, hold up in the ground, that nothing is going to happen to you. And then now stand tall, raise yourself up to the higher spiritual level, right? So that's how the tree is. So when tree is so strong in its existence, it gives that same message, same strength to us, to our promise to ourselves, to determination, that yes, if we have thought about it, we can do it.
Mm.
That's it.
Oh, so beautiful. And I think that's actually a lovely place to leave it. Unless, do you have anything that you want to add, or maybe tell people about where they can find more information about teacher trainings or retreats?
At the moment, the information is on our website, but website can only hold information, not the
You're such a
not
good
the
yoga teacher. You never give a straight answer.
yeah, because when you read 10 website, they all say the same thing.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, anyone is interested in really knowing what teacher training is about, what retreat is in general, what yoga is, if you're not sure whether you should do it, you shouldn't do it, there is also a little icon of WhatsApp on our website. When you click on that icon, you will straight get into touch with me, and I'm always free for a good phone call. I'm happy to explain, otherwise website is there.
Oh, Ruchi, thank you so much. It's honestly been a real pleasure talking to you and a privilege. I feel really grateful for your time. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you very much for giving me this chance to talk about this school, which is so special in my heart. And I don't see myself separate. I feel that I'm Rishikesh Yog Peeth, and
Mm,
Rishikesh Yog Peeth is me. So that's how I feel. So it was really special for me to talk about it. Thank you very
mm,
much.
no problem.
Wasn't that so interesting? Ruchi is a wealth of knowledge. I'm so grateful for her time that she gave and to the wisdom that she shared with us all. So, thank you once again for listening. I really appreciate it, whoever you are out there. Please remember, if you enjoy this episode, to share the podcast, subscribe to Spotify or YouTube or wherever you're listening to this podcast. And just once again, thank you so much. I look forward to sharing next week's episode, which is going to be a really interesting podcast. I say this every week, but genuinely, it's a very interesting topic. I speak to a yoga and voice coach. So have a beautiful week and take care of yourselves.